Welcome to More Fanime. I am your fan of more anime, and today we are finally here. I have reached chapter 100 of the legendary BLEACH manga. This is my review of chapters 76 through 100, and damn, these 25 chapters were exciting. These might be my favorite 25 chapters so far in BLEACH. Just as a reminder, this is my first attempt at reading BLEACH, my first experience of the world of BLEACH. I grew up with Dragon Ball and Naruto. Last year, I have almost finished all of One Piece. I am in the middle of the Dressrosa arc, and I decided this year, why not dive headfirst into BLEACH? One of the big three. I figure I should do this before I hop into a Jujutsu Kaisen, for example, or even a Demon Slayer, which I have also not partaked in just yet. But I figured before I jump into the new era, I should go back and really experience BLEACH for what it is. If you listen to my first review of the first 25 chapters, I wasn't even sure if I would continue on this BLEACH journey. And really, it wasn't until the chapters 50 to 75 is where I really got into this BLEACH storyline about these Soul Reapers and Soul Society and Hollows and whatnot. But I gotta say, I thought that One Piece took a while for me to, for the story to ramp up and for characters to really make their mark, and I think that BLEACH is in that same category. Like, I really think they waited until these last 25 chapters, chapters 76 to 100, is really get to know some of the coolest characters in the series so far. I'm sure there's more to meet, but I have a feeling that some of these bad boys are going to be here for a while, unless Ichigo just eradicates the whole Soul Society. One of the characters that caught my eye in this 25 chapters is Kempachi. This dude seems pretty dope. I really like the way he looks. He's got really cool spiked up hair. He's got an eye patch, which I appreciate because I'm a big pirate fan. And I'm assuming he lost the eye patch in a battle because he seems like a battle-hungry type of fella. I'm actually real excited to see what his Zanpakuto is. Ever since I saw Renji's Zanpakuto, I'm starting to realize that they are all a little different. They're not all the same. They're not all giant swords like Ichigo's. Actually, turns out his giant sword is kind of weird to them. Like, that's not normal. You're not supposed to have a sword as big as you are. It's a kind of a trait of his that they keep bringing up. They keep saying, like, oh, he has a Zanpakuto as big as he is. It's kind of weird. And I'm not sure if it's because his spirit energy is so big and massive that it creates this sword and he can't control the size of it. Or if it represents who you are, or if it's just random when you create the sword. It seems that these Soul Reapers can kind of decide how their swords are designed based on the fight style that they want to do. I think so far my favorite swords in this show, this manga, is I really like Renji's sword, but I think that the Hat and Clogs guy, Kisuke Urahara, his princess blade is pretty dope. He can make like a blood shield. I feel like I still need to learn more about it, but it's simple yet satisfying, and I appreciate that. We actually don't get to see a lot of Kisuke in this arc, in this part of the series, these 25 chapters, mostly because he stayed back in the mortal realm while Chad and Orihime and Ichigo all went to the spirit realm and whatnot to save Rukia. who is actually on the chopping block, literally. She is literally going to be executed soon, and they keep moving up her, like, execution date. They only had a certain amount of time to get there in the first place. They've only got around, like, 10 days or less to go save her. Well, they actually get, in the last chapter I read before I got to these 25 chapters, chapter 75, the crew gets kicked out of the Soul Society gates by the creepy looking dude with the squinty eyes. What is that fella's name? I don't know. But he is one of the captains. We actually get to meet a lot of these captains in these last 25 chapters, and I really like them. Like the Kempachi guy, who seems pretty cool and bloodthirsty and ready to fight Ichigo whenever he can get his mitts on him, his paws on him. We also get to meet another freaky-looking dude named Mayuri. His design is kind of interesting. I'm interested. This Mayuri Kurotasuchi looks a lot different than the rest of the captains. Is it a mask he's wearing, or is he just like a different race? He almost kind of looks like a mime, but he does look like a bad guy, at least from his design. So if this was One Piece, he probably would be a really nice guy, because appearances aren't everything and whatnot. But I have a feeling in a normal shonen manga, he would not be a good fella. He does not look like a good man. Eventually, the crew, the gang, the fellas, Ichigo, Orihime, Yuri, the guy with the bow and arrow dude, and Chad all actually end up running into or finding a way into the Soul Society headquarters, basically, with help from Kukaku Shiba. I am sorry, these names are not easy to remember, and they are all over the place. But Kakuga Shiba, this very beautiful lady with only one arm, so she's seen some shiz, unless she blew it up. She's like a fireworks expert, apparently, and they need firework experts in the spirit realm for some reason or another. She lives on the outskirts of this realm, outside of the Soul Society main hub, where the Soul Reapers live. And she is going to help the gang get across this border, because there's like this big spirit shield protecting the Soul Society. So she comes up with a plan with help from her brother. She's kind of, I don't know, she seems kind of important. She's got a really cool design, but her brother almost seems even more important during this part of the series. Her brother is the one who first meets Ichigo and doesn't like him because he's a Soul Reaper. And we find out later that it's because that a Soul Reaper, or a group of Soul Reapers, killed their other brother, who I believe was also a Soul Reaper. And they don't really know why, which is rather interesting. Yeah, her brother's name is Ganju, a guy who I first saw and was like, well, this guy's not going to be that important. He's probably just some basic-ass anime thug that Ichigo's going to beat up. Almost felt like a filler character when you first meet him, because he's like part of this gang of thugs that like protect the the outside of the Soul Society world. And she tells him that they're going to help them. And he eventually bonds with Ichigo and finds out that, he's not necessarily really a Soul Reaper to begin with. And he's actually just trying to save a friend. And he can kind of get that because, he would have saved his brother if he could. And Gangju actually decides to go with the gang into the spirit realm. And honestly, if he didn't go with them, they might not have made it through the barrier, because there's like this spirit barrier, and they all had to like focus their spirit energy, which Ichigo is terrible at right now. At least he's terrible at something, because sometimes, at least in these last 25 chapters, he pulls some crazy spirit energy out of his ass. It definitely is being implied that Ichigo's got some latent ability deep down inside, ever since like chapter 50 when they beat that giant hollow. And he's got some power within him that he just doesn't know how to control. He's terrible at like controlling spirit energy for some reason. Maybe later we'll find out there's some like fox demon within him that keeps his his chakra off a kilt, if you know what I mean. So they actually break through this barrier to get into the Soul Society. And the shitty problem is the barrier like twists up and then spits all of the gang out into separate groups. I think his name is Yuri. Please tell me if I'm wrong. The dude with the bow and arrow, the Quincy, and Orihime end up together. Chad ends up on his own, which was like, shit, Chad's tough, but can he survive on his own? I was thinking maybe Ichigo would end up on his own, but no, he actually ends up with Genju, his kind of rival in this world, who they kind of get along, kind of like how Zoro and Sanji get along, where they're always competing against each other, and they kind of don't like each other, but they do care and will defend each other and whatnot. They're battle-worn men that will fight as a duo if they have to, just to save Rukia and whatnot. They actually make it into the Soul Society. Oh, and then there's that cat that's with them as well. There's this little cat guy that is actually this little cat guy is basically Orihime and Chad's sensei at this point in the series, and he's their guide, their little spirit animal. He ends up on his own. You don't really get to see what he's up to. Hopefully we'll get to see the cat again. He seems like an important part. I mean, he did go with them. If he wasn't, why would he go with them into the spirit realm? Why wouldn't they just bring Hat and Clogs? I have a feeling that Hat and Clogs, Kisuke, there's something with him, because Ichigo actually runs into a Soul Reaper named Ikaku. Yeah, he's bald. He's very bald. Ikaku Madarame. This dude is actually pretty cool. When I first saw him, I was like, look at this derp. He's got a really cool Zanpakuto, which turns out to be like a spear. I thought he was actually a pretty cool looking dude, to be honest. He is the first big battle in these 25 chapters, and it actually lasted longer than I thought it would. And Ichigo ends up beating this dude using his skills he learned by training with Hat and Clogs. And when he mentions that Kisuke is his master or his sensei, he kind of doesn't want to claim him as a sensei. He's like, I trained with this dude for 10 days. I don't know if I want to consider him a master or a sensei just yet. But basically, I did train with Kisuke, and it did give Ikaku a weird feeling like, whoa, you train with Kisuke? He doesn't really explain why, but it seems like Kisuke is from the Soul Society. My guess right here, right now, please quote me if you need to. Kisuke used to be a Soul Reaper. This is off the top of my head. I'm just thinking these things. And he left because of the corruptness in the Soul Society. Because obviously it almost seems like an old feudal Japan. And there's some corruption going on. There's definitely an honor samurai type system happening here as well. But my guess is he was a legendary Soul Reaper from back in the Dizay. He might be really old actually, but he looks young. He could be much older than he looks. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, they're spirit creatures. I am confused. These Soul Reapers, they're not humans, right? They're not humans. They're spirit creatures, right? Born in the Soul Society. They weren't like originally souls that died and then came to the Soul Society and lived there. It's a little confusing. Because there are souls that live in this world that died and came there with help from Soul Reapers. But then there's this, Soul Society where all the Soul Reapers get to live, and it's almost like a military feudal Japan-like samurai thing, and they all live there, and they can actually be executed like Rukia is being, and you can die. You can be executed some way. So you can die as a Soul Reaper. even though you're not like a living, breathing person. Like they don't. I'm assuming they don't have blood and a heart, but that doesn't make sense because Ichigo fought a couple of them, and they bleed. They definitely bleed, so they do have bodies. Definitely, please comment down below and clear this up for me. Like, what are Soul Reapers? And like, they even show Renji's backstory with Rukia and how they were like part of the poorest district in the Soul Society, but they wanted to move up because they're badasses. All their friends died in the ghetto, but they lived, and they're pretty tough, and they get to go to the Soul Society school, kind of like the, trying to become official genin. Just kidding. But they want to become official Soul Reapers so they can live within the middle of the Soul Society where they can eat every day instead of having to steal and whatnot to survive. Not a lot of jobs out there in the ghetto for them. And they came up together, but then Rukia actually ended up being adopted. And it's this whole deal with her brother Byakuya. And his family adopted her for some unknown reason. Maybe because she's latently talented. That's my guess. With spells, because she's basically only been using spells since we met her, since she gave her powers to Ichigo. Speaking of giving her powers to Ichigo, Renji actually mentions during these 25 chapters that, like, as long as Ichigo's alive, Rukia can never have her powers back fully or some shit. But I thought it was just like a matter of time before Rukia got her powers back. And now Ichigo, his current Soul Reaper powers that he has now were actually unlocked through training with Kisuke. So he isn't necessarily using her abilities anymore. She kind of just unlocked his real Soul Reaper powers, I guess. Is what I'm getting from this. We're slowly getting drip-fed information about that. I hope Rukia can get her powers back. I would like to see her actually fight. She is a cool character. I do like her, so I hope that she gets freed and is able to compete. Maybe kick her brother's ass, even though he does seem pretty tough. So yeah. Ichigo takes out Ikkaku pretty easily. It was actually a decent fight, and Ikkaku actually like wanted to die, like honorably in a fight, but Ichigo, being the sweetheart main character he is, decided to save him by patching up his wounds. There was actually a really cool part where Ichigo had a bloody scar. He got scratched on the head by one of Ikkaku's attacks. He was bleeding in his eye, and Ichigo wiped the blood out of his eye, and Ikkaku's like, "You should never take your hand off your hilt. And a real fighter wouldn't do that shiz, man. You're dealing with me now." Right now, I would suggest that Ichigo's power level, quote unquote, if you want to give him that, is at a Renji level. Like a vice captain level, where they're not full captain. I don't think that he's as strong as Rukia's brother, because I feel like he's going to be like a main battle here in this Rescue Rukia arc. And he seems pretty tough. Like Renji even mentions, like he's never been able to surpass that level just yet, that threshold. So Ichigo beats Ikkaku or whatever, and then him and Ganju end up taking a Soul Reaper hostage from the 4th Division, who's actually just like a medic. They end up taking this medic hostage, who luckily turns out to be Rukia's friend in a way, a guy that really respects Rukia for treating him like a normal person, even though he's not from the aristocrats like she is, and so he wants her to be saved as well. A lot of people want her not to be executed, which is kind of weird, and there's like this actual like conspiracy thing happening. There's a couple characters that are even questioning, like, why is she being executed for something so minor, something that should not be execution worthy. It should be more of a punishment, of course, but not an execution. I did forget that another Soul Reaper named Yamuchikai, very feminine looking dude with these weird eyebrows, ends up fighting for a hot minute. He ends up fighting the fella the firework brother guy, Genju, but he ends up escaping and whatnot. So that's good, using spells and stuff to escape and get away from that. I do not believe that he actually beat him in a fight. Chad actually had a badass Chad moment where he gets surrounded by a group of fodder Soul Reapers, like probably like first year Soul Reapers. Like a group of them, like a good fucking 8-10 of them, and they're like, whoa boy, sorry Chad, they don't really know his name, but we're gonna beat you in 5 minutes, sorry about that. And then Chad kind of looks at him, he's like, hey, I gotta find my friends, so I'm sorry, I'm gonna beat you in 2 minutes. And Chad has this big Chad arm thing, spirit armor, and he just whoops their ass off screen, apparently. Apparently Chad's very powerful. Apparently he can handle Soul Reaper fodder that have probably been training a long time to be Soul Reaper Genin, basically, is what I'm calling them. First year Soul Reapers, which is, I mean, I'm sure Chad has had his share of street fights, but I can't imagine he's been training like a Soul Reaper samurai for, I'm guessing 10 years minimum, just to become, I mean, they have to go through a school to become an official Soul Reaper, and he gets attacked by a gang of them. A gang of them actually was keeping Ichigo busy for a while, until Chad showed up. But yeah, so another thing, Urahime and Yuri, I keep wanting to call him Yuri because I think that's his name, the guy that looks like Sasuke sort of, also reminds me of the one guy with glasses from My Hero Academia, which I can't remember his name for the life of me, right? Ida. It kind of reminds me of Ida Tenya from My Hero Academia now that I think about it. He's got the glasses, he's all about the rules, he's got a really neat outfit that's real proper, whatnot, a little cape. But that guy actually turns out to be much stronger than he ever was. He actually got a physical, looked like a physical bow now. Before he had the spirit bow, now it seems like he has a real bow weapon that he uses and puts his spirit energy through to create a super spirit bow, even stronger than before. Because, you know, he got inspired after he got his ass handed to him by Renji. And so he ends up taking out a rather tough Soul Reaper, saving Orihime, actually. He kicks his ass. Orihime does some cool shit, too. She saves them when they fall to the ground with her crazy fairies that come out of her hair. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not a big fan of Orihime. I think she's a cool character, but I don't like the idea of her being one of the fighters. She doesn't come off as somebody that cares about physical fighting. She doesn't seem like she should have the spirit energy. I'm still a big proponent of her friend Tatsuki. I feel like she should have been the one to get the powers, in my opinion. Like, she's an actual fighter. I hope that Tatsuki gets an opportunity one day to fight. I know she's just a schoolgirl that goes to karate class, but I always felt that secretly she might have been in love with Ichigo since they grew up together, and maybe Orihime could have been something else. I don't know. Something about Orihime just having these powers just throws me out. And she's like latently good at spirit control as well, kind of how Sakura was in early Naruto. And I just find that to be kind of weird. And Ichigo's really bad at it. I guess everybody's good at a little something. We get to meet a bunch of the captains, like I mentioned. Toshiro, this little kid-looking dude, he has white hair, at least in the manga, and he's just like, either he's a kid or he's just naturally short. He seems kind of chill, and he kind of seems like he doesn't trust some of the other captains. He even talks to somebody, he's like, hey, don't trust this person. They ain't trustworthy. We get to meet like the grandpa of the whole society, Genrosai Sagurakai Yamamoto. Yamamoto I'm going to call him that, was the captain of the 1st Division and whatnot. He is the leader of this Soul Society. He must be very strong, Master Roshi type fella. He seems cool. We didn't get to learn a lot about him, but he kind of hands out the executions and the punishments and what not. He actually ends up confronting Jin? Jin, yes. Jin is the guy I was trying to think of earlier. This dude looks creepy. He's got these squinted eyes. He's always got this creepy smile on his face. He's the one that cut off the giant's arm, the gatekeeper's arm, and he's the one who pushed Ichigo and the crew out of the gate and basically left them and let them live. And basically they asked him, why would you, 1, go out there, Jin, without permission, 2, not finish off your opponents or at least capture them or one of them or get some information, so you're going to be punished for that. But before he could even be punished, Ichigo and the crew pop through the barrier and it throws everything into whack, and they basically say, hey, we'll punish you later, Jin. I have a feeling it's going to lead to something important later. Just off the top of my head, just saying. So yeah, he's a thing. We also get to meet another captain, I believe his name is Eisen. I don't know, he's got glasses. He doesn't last long, actually. He seems like a good guy, like a good fella. He helps out one of the other vice captains who's worried about Renji, I think, and whatnot, and they just have a talk. And she thinks that there's corruption, I believe, in the whole Soul Society, especially because Renji actually goes and confronts Ichigo, Renji being a friend of Rukia, and he's like, hey man, it's your fault that she's in this position in the fucking first place, Ichigo. You took her powers, and they end up having a badass fight. Probably my favorite fight so far, if I think. Probably my favorite Ichigo fight so far against Renji, which was really good. Him using that crazy whip blade of his to take down Ichigo, and he actually starts off way stronger than Ichigo, but then Ichigo pulls the whole main character thing where he remembers his training with Keisuke. And he's like, yes, you have the power, Ichigo, but you need to learn how to use it. You don't strike with the intent to kill. You dodge with the intent to run away instead of dodging for the intent of not getting attacked. I don't know. He said it better than I am. You need to strike with to kill and not whatnot. You need to be willing to kill people. Basically, he's like, but I'm a main Shonen Jump character. I can't kill people or they won't buy my toys. That's what I got from that. But he remembers his training with Keisuke and then ends up beating Renji with a badass attack. And I'm assuming just as strong as the attack he used on that Super Hollow, if not stronger. Renji even mentions, this is not even necessary, honestly, and it kind of makes Renji seem weak to me. Or it makes Ichigo seem much stronger than he was 10 days ago before his training, somehow, some way. But Renji's like, by the way, in the human world, Soul Reapers are not as strong as they are here. They have to be reduced so they don't influence humans. And I'm actually 5 times stronger than I was there. I'm a big fan of this Renji guy. I think my favorite character is Hat and Clogs, Keisuke, but out of the Soul Reapers, Renji is really cool. He reminds me a lot of Bakugo. He's got, some edge, but you can tell there's a sweetheart in there somewhere. But this guy challenges Ichigo, says he's 5 times stronger than he was when he beat Ichigo's ass. And then, despite all of that, Ichigo ends up winning and literally almost killing Renji with one massive attack. And breaks Renji's badass Zanpakuto, which I hope you can fix. Ichigo fixed his, so hopefully Renji can fix his. My hope is Renji can get his sword back and it'll be even cooler. Maybe he'll get a new version of his sword, kind of how like Ichigo did. Renji actually gets put into jail for going off on his own and challenging the Ichigo without permission, and even was told like he was on death's door, but was told, like he told his captain, Rukia's brother, was like, nah, let him die, let him bleed out, because he wasn't listening, and I don't like him. And the only reason Renji wasn't basically allowed, just left to die, was because a lot of the captains and vice captains really like Renji, and they're like, no, we're gonna give him some help, we're gonna send him some medics. You know, that's the cool thing to do. So yeah, Eisen, this guy, he thinks, if I believe correctly, he's a nice fella with glasses. He ends up in the last chapter, in the last panel of chapter 100, being killed by somebody. Who knows? I bet they're going to blame Ichigo and his gang, but he is like stabbed onto a wall in a very murderer-like way, with blood dripping down from behind him, which was just brutal as all heck. And that was a hell of a way to end chapter 100. So I believe he's a captain, Eisen Sosuke, who was the 5th division, is a Soul Reaper of the 5th division, and this guy is just instantly dead. We meet him and he's dead. My assumption is he learned something important. My assumption is he learned something about that Jin guy who seems very creepy, or that Mayuri guy who also seems very creepy. He learned something about them. That's my assumption. And he got killed for it. There's a mystery going on, and he's got some information, and maybe somebody will go back to his room and find the information that he figured out, or somebody will find out why Eisen was murdered in cold blood. Like, there's a mystery happening while they're being invaded by humans from the human world. So the Soul Society's got a lot of problems, to say the least. Ichigo is got it healed. By the way, Ichigo is now in dire straits. He is having to spend a night healing. Thank goodness they stole that medic from the Soul Society who actually wants to help them. He's being healed right now, and I'm sure he'll be back in action soon. Kempachi actually questions Ikkaku, the guy who fought Ichigo first in the Soul Society, who actually is one of his teammates and one of his subordinates. And he's like, so who is this guy? Is he strong? He's like, yeah, he's actually strong, and he's getting stronger, and I actually warned him about you, Kempachi. You're going to have a good time if you let him develop a little bit more. I have a feeling that Kempachi is being built up to be a main fight for Ichigo. I really do like him. I could see him becoming a favorite quickly, because he seems like an old grizzled vet, and I'm a big fan of those grizzled vets now. He kind of reminds me of that, you know, that character that's been through some shiz, that's honorable, though. He almost looks too badass to even be a bad guy, so I don't get that vibe off him. He actually saves his teammate Ikkaku, his subordinate, from being punished by Mayuri, who was trying to question him. And he's like, when did you get permission to punish my subordinates, or anybody for that matter? There's a power struggle going on in the Soul Society. I don't know if our little cat friend's okay. I don't know how Chad is as strong as he is, but I'm excited. My prediction for Chad is he's eventually going to have a full body armor, spirit armor, not just one arm. But we shall see. We shall find out. My next 25 chapters will be chapters 101 to chapters 125. I'm very excited to continue this Bleach adventure. I'm liking the 25 chapters at a time thing instead of doing it by arcs. Currently, we are in the Save Rukia saga, is what I'm calling it, right here, right now. Like the Rescue Sasuke retrieval arc. This is the Rukia retrieval arc, who will not be executed. Not today, people. You know, it would be fucking crazy, though, if they just executed Rukia. Like, he wasn't on time. Like, Ichigo couldn't make it. Almost like Luffy trying to save Ace. Like, wouldn't that be nuts? Actually, that would actually be more ballsy than killing off Ace. Ace was kind of a plot point. He wasn't a main character. Rukia is the secondary main character in a lot of ways. And if she was executed right before Ichigo could make it, and then Ichigo gets saved somehow, but then he's got to, like, defend her honor. I don't know. He changes his life. I do hope. I mean, death seems like it can happen here. Like, that doesn't seem like they're afraid to kill people off in this. They literally introduced a Captain Eisen Sosuke. I think that's how you say it. And he was murdered in cold blood in front of our eyes. So they're not afraid to kill people here, and I'm excited to see what happens next. There's also another character that I thought stood out for a couple reasons, a couple of her assets. Rangiku Masumoto. I'm excited to see more of her for more than one reason. Let's just say I'm excited to see more of her. She does have orange hair, like Ichigo. I know Ichigo's mom was murdered by a hollow, so maybe she's connected to Ichigo's mom. That's just a assumption that I'm coming up with based on their hair color. I'm Mr. Morfetto. This is Morphanime. These were the last 25 chapters. I finally got to chapter 100. I am really in it now. I am in the Bleach. Oh, one more thing. I ask this every time, but why is the show called Bleach? When there's no character named Bleach, there's no reason, there's no weapon called Bleach, there's nothing related to Bleach at all in this show. I'm curious why it's called Bleach. Most shows, their names are connected to a character or something, or a main plot point. But there's no plot involving Bleach thus far. Please comment down below. Please share. Please subscribe. Trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. I'm also, once I finish Bleach, I gotta decide. Am I gonna go into Jujutsu Kaisen? Is it gonna be Demon Slayer? Is it gonna be Attack on Titan? I don't know. I haven't done any one of those three. I'm in the middle of One Piece. I'm in the middle of Bleach. There's a lot of shiz to get through. I'll talk to you later.